Today's daf we're going to be learning is Gittin Daf Gimel. Today's daf is sponsored by Rebecca and Ezra Darshan in loving memory of her mother, Helene Isaacs, Hannah Bat Abraham David, and Esther Rachel on her 23rd yahrzeit. My mother would have been so happy and proud to see so many women learning on such a high level. Torah learning was such an important part of her life. Today's daf is sponsored by Eric Summer in honor of Rabbanit Michelle and his fellow morning daf learners. This week's scene was a great reminder what an incredible achievement Hadran is. Rabbi Michelle's vision and teaching style, along with the solidarity and dedication of the learners, creates a feeling of being part of something special. It's a privilege to be part of it, one that I do not take for granted. Thank you. Okay, we're going to get started with our daf. Reminder, there's bookmarks. Again, the link to the PDF of the bookmarks, which has some basic terms that will be helpful in Gittin, is found on yesterday's daf post. And if you use the podcast and the links in the podcast, you can find it in the details, except for Spotify, which I think that doesn't work with the links. Anyone who uses Spotify, just so you know, whenever there's a study guide, you can find it on the daf post on our website. In most of the other podcast applications, I believe, you should be able to, I know it works on Apple Podcasts, you should be able to find the link to the study guide right there in the details. So that's just a tip in terms of using the podcast apps, how to use and how to access the what's available. What else? If you want to receive a bookmark in the mail, you can email us at info@hadran.org.il and we can mail you a bookmark free of charge. And that's that. What else? I think that's it for announcements. Okay. Now we're going to review our daf from yesterday at the second part, or let's just review from the very beginning, very, very briefly. We started with this halacha that a messenger who brings the get from abroad to Israel to the wife has to say when they get there, b'fanai nechtav u'fanai nechtam, without getting into all the details, which case exactly, which location, etc. But that's the general principle. Now, they have to say it was written in front of me, it was signed in front of me. We're going to talk about that particular language as we go on later in our daf. We then have the Gemara, very famous Gemara. Here we have two basic opinions, Raba with a hey and Rava with an aleph at the end. Raba, the hey at the end, he says, it's all because people there were not either careful or they didn't know the halacha of bikin. Either they didn't care about the halacha of lishma or they didn't know it. And what is lishma? That the get has to be written, particularly for this person and for this person, for the man, the woman. It can't be that you take a document that either, right, we ended our daf with pointing out that there's two possibilities as to what could have happened here. Either they found it in the garbage, husband found it, it was already written. He said, oh, perfect, here's a get written in my name and her name, and perfect, I'll just give it to her. Or that the sofer was practicing and wrote out some random documents just to get used to writing it, wrote it out with names, and the guy, takes it and said, oh, great, I'll use that. So that's what lishma means. It has to be written specifically for him and for her. And that's the issue, that abroad, they weren't so careful about this halacha or they didn't know it. So when the messenger comes and says, it was written in front of me, it was signed in front of me, that means it was all done lishma. Then Rava says, no, that's not the issue. And today we're going to get into why didn't he hold like him and why didn't he hold like him? Okay, why didn't each accept the other's opinion? And I'll save the surprise that you're going to get to at the end of tomorrow's daf about the opinions, but that's for tomorrow. You'll be interestingly surprised at the end of this whole sugya. But Rava says the whole issue is we're worried that you might not find witnesses later to the witnesses who signed on it. And if the husband comes later, by the way, the Raba also was an issue of the husband coming later, because we're worried if the husband comes and claims, oh, by the way, I found this in the garbage, right? We won't believe him because the messenger already said, according to Rava, the issue is that if the husband comes later and says, oh, those aren't real signatures, that's a forged document, my wife just forged the get for herself. Well, what will we do normally? This is what we call kiyum shtarot. Okay, in general, when you have, let's say I have a deed to my house with witnesses signed on it that you sold me the house, and you come later and you claim, no, I didn't sell you the house. So this is what we call kiyum shtarot. Generally, what you do is you find witnesses that can verify the signature of this one and verify the signature of the other one. And then they say, oh, yeah, I recognize their signatures. This isn't a forgery. Right? The same way we said yesterday, right? The bank checks your signature on record. And right, so sometimes it would be the court has records of it, or there's witnesses who come and say, I know their signatures. But if these are witnesses from a different country, from far away, there's no way we're going to be able to verify their signatures. So this witness comes and says, the messenger, basically he functions as a messenger and a witness, and says, this was written in front of me, this was signed in front of me, basically meaning this was signed properly. I saw the witnesses. I saw the ones who signed. By the way, you can already imagine what one of the issues is going to be. According to him, you don't need chatima, you only need bifanai nechtam. It was signed. You don't need the ktiva part. We're going to get to that later today. Well, then the Gemara said, if this messenger is functioning like a witness, and right now we're going to read the sugya according to Raba, and then we're going to read the sugya according to Rava. We're going to have the same question on each, and you can see charted out on the sheet. I'm not going to share my screen today. I always have a problem with sharing screen. Yesterday, the video wouldn't upload because it was so heavy when I share screens. So unless it's really necessary, you can follow along in the sheet, and I will teach it. When it's very, very useful, then I'll share it. But the issue here is that according to Raba, who says, and then that means this messenger is functioning like a witness saying, I know it was done l'shma. Well, shouldn't we need two witnesses? Right? That's where we started. The Gemara had said, no, in cases like this, we believe one witness. It's just really determining, is she forbidden, is she permitted, right, to remarry? One witness is enough. Before we get into the question on that, I meant to mention this Tosfot yesterday. It's a really interesting Tosfot on Eidach HaNe'eman B'Yisurim. He has two Tosfots on it. The second Tosfot says that Rabbeinu Tam asks, how can you say Eidach HaNe'eman B'Yisurim to verify the signatures here? Because you're basically saying one witness is good when it comes to get. Now, how could you say that when there's two signatures signed on the get? He says basically, then for a regular get, you shouldn't need two signatures on it. One signature should be enough, because if it's Isurim, and Isurim, one is enough, then one signature, one person signed should be enough. So he says something doesn't make sense here, to which he answers, Rabbeinu Tam answers something very interesting. He says, the reason we're going to believe one witness here is, before we get into the back and forth and the other questions, and we're going to clarify this a little better, but he says at first glance, when the Gemara says one witness is enough, what they really mean is, since the one witness, all he's doing is verifying a document that already had signatures on it, then it's just what we call a giloi milta. He's just kind of telling us something that we already assumed was true. It's only because there's two witnesses already signed in this document that we're going to accept one witness to now say that they signed lishma, okay? But if it were just what we had to get and only one aid, that would not be good, because you really do need two witnesses here. So he limits a little bit this Eidach HaNe'eman B'Yisurim. It's not all any kind of Isser v'heter issue like this. No, really, you need two signatures on it. But since we already have the signatures and there's already a get, we're just verifying that it was done properly. That's already a lower level of testimony. Then the Gemara had said, again, I'm reviewing this because it's good to review and get into it, and it's kind of adding as I review. So then we said the following. Wait a minute. Eidecha, that's only when you're not have presumptive status of Isur. That's only when we don't know. We have a piece of meat, fat. Is it kosher fat? Not kosher fat. But, right, is it the parts of the animal that are forbidden to eat, or the parts of the animal that you can eat? But here, she is an Eshet Ish. Number two, it's a rayot. If she's an Eshet Ish and now goes and marries someone else, her get's no, right, we're verifying, is the get good and is she not an Eshet Ish? Or is the get not good and she's an Eshet Ish? She's a married woman. And that's Ereva. For Ereva, you definitely need two. To which they answer, no, you don't really need two witnesses here. Really, the assumption is, right, most people are Beki'in, okay? Even Rabbi Meir, who worries about minorities, we're not worried about the minority here, because not only do most people keep the halacha lishma, also most of the people who are writing gets, or everyone who's writing gets, are sofrim. And the sofrim know the halacha. The scribes definitely know this halacha. But what? The rabbi said we need to do this. We saw two reasons why the rabbi said, right, either the husband's going to come later and say, right, I took it out of the garbage, or the husband's come later and said, I saw the sofer practicing and I just took the document from him. So because of that, the rabbi said you have to do it. And then why not two? Well, when the rabbi said you need a witness, they only said one because they thought if we do two, it'll be too complicated for the husband. He won't do it. And the wife will end up in aguna. And aguna is a wife who's chained into marriage, right? She's not really married to him because he's living abroad and she's living here. And basically they're going to say, the husband's going to say, it's not worth my while. It's too expensive to find witnesses who are going to bring it, too complicated. And he won't do it. And she'll be stuck without a get. We definitely want to avoid those situations. To which the rabbi said, but wait a minute, we're still not done with this again. This is where our daf starts. Hi kulahu, we just said, mishum aguna, because of aguna, akilu ba rabbanan. The rabbis are more lenient. This is a leniency that's helpful to the woman, right? The assumption was it was helpful to the woman. She gets her get. But actually, humrahu, okay, and sometimes this happens. You can have a leniency, which is going to lead to something, a stringency. It's not really a stringency here, but what it means is instead of helping the woman, it's going to hurt the woman. By only requiring one witness, this is going to create a huge problem down the road, or at least a potentially huge problem for the woman. Why is that? And then this goes back to things we learned at the end of the Masechet Sota. If we would have insisted that two witnesses send this, the husband has to send it with two witnesses. Now we all know two witnesses, once two witnesses say something and one comes against, we ignore the one witness. But if there's one witness against one witness, we saw at the end of the last Masechet, right? Unless we say one witness is believed as two, but that's not what we're saying here. If one witness goes up against another witness, then we don't know what to do. We're left in a situation of doubt. So comes the Gemara and says here, even if we would have had two and the husband has to send it with two, lo ate baal ma'alim upasale. The husband will not be able to come later and claim this is nigeh. They're worried, okay, interesting. Nowadays, we have all sorts of horrible cases of men who abuse their power when it comes to get and force women to be agunot, right? They won't give them a get, all sorts of things. They're very vindictive people. It happened then too. Okay, we're going to see sugya after sugya that deals with this issue. So, and we're already on the second page, we're already dealing with this issue. We're worried, and we talked about it yesterday as well. We're worried the husband's going to come later and claim, by the way, I never gave a get to my wife, right? He wants to be vindictive. She's already remarried. He wants to mess her up, right? He can come and claim, oh, by the way, this isn't a good get. Now, if in the beginning there were two witnesses who said, and he now comes and claims it wasn't written lishma, I took it out of the garbage, we're not going to believe him against two witnesses. He's just one witness. But if there's only one witness who says it, ate baal ma'ara upasale. If the husband comes, it's the word of the messenger against the word of the husband. So even though we instituted this whole thing to prevent the husband from coming in and claiming something, right now, theoretically, you could say that we're going to get to an answer, but let's assume we're at this stage of the sugya. So then what was the point of saying the husband could come? Well, the point is, if he says it would probably limit the cases where the husband would actually do it. But if a husband really is vindictive and wants to do it anyway, the husband will come and then we'll have the word of the messenger against the word of the husband. And then, right, the court's going to say, we don't really know. And what was her presumptive status? We're basically going to say, we can't be sure it was written lishma. We can't be sure the husband's right. It wasn't written lishma, but let's just ignore everything then, right? Everybody drops out and we're left with what? The woman doesn't have a get because the get is now what we call mutab safek. We're not sure if it's valid. And because her presumptive status before getting the get was she's a married woman, we're now going to not let her get remarried based on that, right? You could also imagine the situation. One is she's already married. The other is she wants to go get married. And the husband here, she wants to get remarried. And he says, no way, no how. I'm going to just claim your get is no good and you won't be able to get remarried. So if you had required him to from the beginning, the husband would have zero chance of doing this. Now, at least if the husband really wants to be vindictive, he can. Okay, again, this isn't to say most husbands will do this. But again, like we saw in Ketubot, same thing, right? If a husband claims the woman doesn't have her virginity, or right, there are vindictive people out there, and the system has to protect against those people, right? It's a very small percentage of people, but again, we have to protect, particularly the women here in this case, from people who might be vindictive. So now, the Gemara is going to have a response to this. Why is one witness enough here? Well, and now we're going to have two explanations of what this means, because Rashi is going to bring two options. It's not so clear what the Gemara is saying. Because it was said, Bifnei kama notnola, when this witness comes, this messenger, who also functions as a witness, he comes and he says, and by the way, we're going to see later, it could be a she, in this case, she could also come and say, B'fanai nektav u'fanai nektav. But they don't just do it in front of the woman and just tell the woman, right? Obviously, there has to be some sort of, record of this. So they either say it in front of two people, okay? There's a debate between Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Hanina. We don't know who says what. One said it has to be said in front of two people. One said it has to be said in front of three people, which usually means either we need witnesses or we need a court. Okay, 3 is court, 2 is witnesses. So we're going to have this also later on in the Masechet. In any case, There's 2 or there's 3. That means that this is done in a very formal manner because it's done in front of either witnesses or a court. Therefore, what? Therefore, and here comes the part that Rashi is going to give 2 different explanations. Me'ikara me'dakdai. This is a good example where the Gemara is not very clear. From the beginning, he's very careful. We don't know who he is, so we'll talk about this. And he's not going to make himself look bad later. So who are we talking about, and what does this mean, and how does this work? So Rashi first suggests, if you look at Me'ikara me'dakdai, HaShaliach. The Shaliach is very careful in the beginning. Why? When he gets it from the husband, he knows that this guy really wants to divorce his wife, in which case he knows that lo yavo v'yar'er od. In other words, the Shaliach, since the Shaliach is about to go in front of witnesses or a court and say, this was written in front of me, this is signed in front of me, he collects his information first. He doesn't want to look like an idiot later on, or not exactly an idiot is the right word, but people are going to doubt his ability to testify in general because they're going to say, you brought this get, and now the husband claims it's not a get. And then people are going to think you're a liar. So because he doesn't want people to think he's a liar, he's going to make sure this husband really wants to give the get. Now, why would the husband give the get if he didn't want to? First of all, we know this goes on all the time, right? Again, in very few situations, but it does happen where the husband doesn't want to give a get. And they try to force the husband to give a get. We're going to see all sorts of stories in the Gemara where this happens as well. And they try all sorts of mechanisms to force the husband to give the get. Eventually, the husband might give the get because he feels forced, but he doesn't really want to. And you can tell when you meet this person that this is a guy that theoretically could claim later, oh, by the way, this isn't a good get. So if that's the case, this messenger is never going to go bring this get to abroad, go bring it to Israel and say, this was written and signed in front of me, because it's his reputation on the line. And if the husband comes later, they won't know who to believe, and people will assume, possibly, right? Some people will side with the husband, some people will side with the messenger, but it won't make him look good. And therefore, if he's going to bring this get and say this declaration in front of a few people, he's for sure going to make sure the husband's never going to really undo the get. Now, the problem with this explanation is, how does he know what the husband's going to do eventually, right? It's funny, we just had this at the end of Masechet Sota, right? Boker miyitain erev, erev miyitain boker. You don't really know what's going to be tomorrow. You can assume maybe it'll be better, but you don't really know. Here, you don't really know what the husband's going to do down the road. Might turn vindictive later. Anyway, that's one interpretation, but maybe that's what leads to the second interpretation. Inami orer eino ne'eman divadai dat b'milta shapir. Or possibly it's that, until now we said it's 1 against 1, messenger against the husband. But in the end, we're going to say, because this messenger does this declaration in front of 2 or 3 people, we assume the messenger was sure about what they're saying, and therefore we actually ignore the husband when the husband comes. Okay? So we basically say, if the husband were to come, we don't look at it as 1 against 1. It's like we saw last time, that sometimes 1 is believed like 2. This witness gets a status of 2 witnesses, basically, this messenger witness. And therefore, if the husband does come, we actually don't believe the husband at all, which is interesting also. So those are 2 ways to understand the Gemara. If this wasn't, and you want some review, don't worry. We're going to read the exact same sugya with very minor changes. You can see from the chart on the page where the words are different and where they're the same. It's kind of noticeable there in the chart on the page. Anyway, we're going to now read the whole sugya again. Same type of questions, same type of answers according to Rava. So that'll be a good review of the previous. Okay, those 5 words, 4 words are different at the end there, but otherwise it's the same, which is, and the question is really the same. According to Rava, who said that the issue is that we're basically ratifying the signatures of the witnesses. You should need 2, just like any other time we do ratification of witnesses, of documents. Okay, like I said, if I have a document of sale that I bought a house from you, and you come and claim it's a forgery, what do? We go to court, we find 2 witnesses to verify the signatures on the document. 1 witness is not enough. So why would 1 witness be enough in this case? To which they answer, right? My case was monetary, financial stuff. That's not isurim. When it comes to the world of isurim, 1 witness is sufficient. Again, the Gemara is going to say, what do you mean 1 witness is sufficient? That's only when you have a piece of fat and you're not sure is it the forbidden fat or the permitted fat. Where there's no presumptive status of prohibition. But in our case, but where there's presumptive status, this woman is a married woman. Again, this is word for word what we saw before. And then it's also davar shar be'erva. It's also an issue of arayot, of forbidden relationships, and ein davar shar be'erva pachot mishnayim. And we know that in that case, while it might be the world of prohibitions and not monetary law, it doesn't matter because it has its own requirement of 2 witnesses. So again, we're back to square one. Why is 1 witness enough here? To which the Gemara answers, here's where it's a little bit different, but the gist is the same. It's just the content is different. Because there was a whole issue of lishma and why we require lishma. Now we have to explain why we require kiyum shtarot. Bidinhu de b'kiyum shtarot nami lo libai. Actually, really, when it comes to ratifying the signatures on a document, you really don't need 2 witnesses. Why? As Rish Lakish says, Da'amar Rish Lakish, Eidim hatumim al ashtar, nasu k'mishenech kerai dutam bebeitin. And think about the way it works in our world, right? You have signatures. Signatures are everything, right? It's very important, those signatures. You sign on documents, right? People make you sign on things all the time. So why do you sign? Because signatures make it as if it was already checked out in court. Meaning, if you have a document with signatures, I have a document that you sold me your house, that is totally valid. You come and claim it's a forgery, the burden of proof is on you. If you can't prove it's a forgery, that document is a good document. However, Rabbanan de'itzru, but the rabbis said, based on the fact that there were some cases of forgery, they required kiyum shtarot. So in the case where you claim it's a forgery, I have to bring witnesses. But now, so the whole idea of kiyum shtarot is actually only rabbinic. By Torah law, 2 witnesses signed on a document is very clear and valid, and that's good. You don't need any more than that. The rabbis said that there are cases, if somebody comes and claims it's a forgery, where you're going to have to prove it. Okay? And we're going to worry that maybe it really is a forgery. But in regular cases, they required 2 witnesses. But now you're going to get to back where we started before in the previous sugya. But in our case of kiyum shtar, we're going to say, in order to ratify the signatures on the document, say the get is a good get, we're only going to require 1, because again, otherwise the husband might say, you know what, it's just not worth it to me, and he won't give her the get, and the woman will remain in aguna, chained into her marriage. To which the Gemara asks again, same words, word for word. Haikulahu, chumrahu. What do you mean this is a leniency? This is actually a stringency. Now again, not really a stringency. Chumra is used loosely. This is something that will cause her problems down the road. Really what it's saying is, you think it's protecting her? It's not protecting her at all. Because if you would have required 2 from the beginning, the husband won't be able to come along. It'll preclude any option of the husband coming to try to claim it's a forged document. But if there's only 1 who comes to say this is a good document, the husband could theoretically come and it'll be 1 against 1, and then we'll throw the document out and the woman will be chained into her marriage. So they say no. Since they asked this question, in front of how many people does he give the get? Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Hanina, they disagree about this. One said in front of 2, one said in front of 3. Again, we're going to assume, okay, there were 2 options, but the main point is when the husband comes, right, either the husband won't come at all because there's no way it'll happen because the messenger will be sure this is a husband who will never come, or even if the husband does come, we're going to ignore him and we're going to accept this testimony of that witness because we're going to assume that since he did it in this forum of 2 or 3 people, he clearly was telling the truth. So that was the same exact sugya we had to ask. According to Raba, why is 1 witness sufficient? And according to Rava, why was 1 witness sufficient? And we finally, after back and forth, we got to a good answer. Now we're going to have 3 sugyas today. So the first was that issue, why 1 witness is sufficient. The second is Rava, my time alo amar Raba, and then we're going to say Raba, my time alo amar Rava. Why did each one not accept the opinion of the other? So Amar Lecha, Rava, why didn't he say that the issue is lishma? So he says very simply, Mi katane befanai nichtav lishma, befanai nichtam lishma. Does it say there? What does the Mishna say? In front of me it was written, in front of me it was signed. If the whole issue was lishma, it should have been that the witness / messenger, has to say, in front of me it was signed lishma. In front of me it was, in front of me it was written lishma. In front of me it was signed lishma. It should have had the word lishma in the declaration. So because it doesn't say lishma, where do you get this idea that it's lishma? Now we have to do a ping pong, which is, good point. What does Raba have to answer to that? Raba is going to use basic, we call human behavior or human patterns of human behavior. Bidinu delit nehach. Really? They should have said, you should say, b'fanai nechtav lishma, b'fanai nechtam lishma. But, if we require too many words, people will cut off some of them. And then if we require that we say, b'fanai nechtav lishma, b'fanai nechtam lishma, and by accident, you then only say b'fanai nechtav, and you forget the word lishma, what's going to happen? It won't be valid. So they said, let's just make it shorter so that you don't accidentally cut words off. Okay, we're worried that people generally don't remember everything. They know they have to make some declaration. They say it, but they might not say all the words. So better make it short, and then they'll say everything. So it took out the main part about lishma, but it's obvious when you say it was written. Written means written lishma. Signed means signed lishma. So they say, what do you mean? Hashtanami atel migzir. You still have b'fanai nechtav, b'fanai nechtam. Maybe you'll drop a word there. Well, no. Chad mitlat guys, chad mitarkilo guys. They split it into two sections, and they say, look, 1 out of 3 words you'll drop. 1 out of 2 words you won't drop. So basically, b'fanai nechtav is 2 words. B'fanai nechtav is 2 words. We're not worried you're going to forget one of the words of b'fanai nechtav, or b'fanai nechtam. But b'fanai nechtav lishma, b'fanai nechtam lishma, you might drop 1 out of the 3 in one of those sections. Okay, that's there. Again, this is what we can assume patterns of human behavior will be, and therefore the halakha is determined based on that. Again, this is all just to answer a question. We don't know if that's really the case, but Raba is responding to being, again, it's not really Raba, it's the Gemara responding in Raba's voice as what would he say to this? And we can assume he would say something like that. So now they say, Im amar lecha, Raba, skipped a word. Raba, my time lo amar karab. Okay, so that was, why didn't Rava, let's just go back and review, why didn't Rava, who held it's that we can't find witnesses, right, that we won't be able to find the witnesses later, we're verifying the signatures, why didn't he hold like Raba? And the answer is because the word lishma doesn't appear there. Rava himself answers why the word lishma doesn't appear, because of human behavior, worried they'll drop some words. Okay, next. Raba, my time alone, or karaba. So why did Raba hold like Rava, that the issue is the kiyum shtar? Mar lecha. Now, I already referenced this before. If the whole thing is ratifying the signatures, then why do you need to mention the writing of the get? All you need to mention is the signing of the get. Okay? Why do you need to add b'fanai nechtav? It must be shma mina be'inan lishma. Okay? You need ktiva lishma. We're going to see you need chatima lishma, right? You need both. That's why lishma is the more obvious answer. We're going to get to the next question. The third part of our sugya and the last part of our sugya today is, who says you need both it to be written and signed lishma? And then we're going to basically throw this question back on Rava somewhat. It's not exactly asked on Rava, but we'll see. So now, he's basically saying, if it's all about ratification of signatures, why mention the writing of the get? All you need is the signing of the get. So now, ping pong back to Rava. What's he going to answer to this? The Rava bidinhu delit nehachi. Really, it should have just said b'fanai nechtam. However, what's the problem? Ela de'inke. Now we already established that what regular kiyum shtara needs 2 witnesses. This particular case of kiyum shtara only needs 1 because of aguna issues. So now he says the following: if you just said b'fanai nechtam, what would happen? People will see that you did kiyum shtara v'get with 1 witness. And they'll think that all other kiyum shtarot can be done with 1 witness, and they won't remember that it has to be done with 2. So because of that, we make the declaration talking also about the writing to make it, to indicate that this is different from regular kiyum shtar, to which Rabba needs to now answer. That's a pretty good answer. So what's Rabba going to answer back? Rabba midame. He says, kiyum shtar is not like kiyum shtar v'get. Even if you got rid of the word b'fanai nechtav and you just said b'fanai nechtam, it's written it was signed in front of me. Still, you wouldn't confuse it with kiyum shtar, in which case, again, back to square one. Why do you have to say lichtov, right? But panai nechtav has nothing to do with it. Why does he think you're not going to confuse it? 3 reasons. One is, okay, and I charted it out on the sheet. One is midame. It's not similar. Hatam yadinan hacha befanai. The whole language is different. When you go to ratify a document and the signatures, you say, I know these people's signatures. You don't say, in front of me it was signed, because you don't actually need to say in front of me it was signed. You don't need to have been there to verify the signatures. You just need to recognize that this signature matches this person's general signature. So the language is totally different. So therefore, no one's going to confuse it. Number 2, hatam isha lo mehemna. When it comes to regular ratifying signatures, we don't believe women to say, I recognize the signature of this person. But hacha isha mehemna. But in our case, a woman is believed. A woman can be the one, right, to bring the get and say, in front of me it was written, in front of me it was signed. We actually allow a woman. This is interesting. It's very similar to allowing a woman to testify that a man is dead, right? Because we don't, again, it's aguna. Because of aguna situations, we don't want this, right? We want to be able to make the get as easy as possible for her to get so that she's not stuck in this marriage. And therefore, we accept testimony of a woman. Okay, why testimony of a woman in general is not accepted? Again, has to be somewhat, it's one of those very complicated things, not really clear and understandable. But obviously has something to do with historically where women were in society at the time, and you know, that they weren't viewed as people that were understood enough to be able to provide testimony. Could be, you know, certain things, yes, but they probably just drew the line and just said no in general, other than some unique cases where we want to make sure that this passes through, and therefore we're going to be more lenient. Number 3, this is a very interesting one. Hatam bal davar lo meheman, hacha bal davar meheman. The person themselves is not believed to verify the documents that, you know, if they're related to this document, they can't verify the signatures of it. In this case, they can. What does this mean? This means the woman herself. That's a bit of a strange situation. Aren't we talking about the husband sends the get to the woman? But theoretically, okay, so some of the commentaries explain what's the case. The husband sends the wife with the get and says, oh, this is only going to be a valid get when you get to Israel. And then what does she have to do? She has to bring the get to Israel. Why he would do this, I have no idea. But bring the get to Israel, and she would then have to say in front of 2 people or 3 people, depending on the opinion, in front of me it was written, in front of me it was signed, and that would be valid. She could even testify about her own get. Okay, that's how far we go to be lenient here. Okay, again, it's a bit of a strange case that would actually happen, because why on earth would that happen? But in a theoretical plane, so the point is, there's 3 differences between kiyum shtar and kiyum get. Therefore, there's no reason to think that there would be confusion. And therefore, again, you don't need to write, you don't need to say, in front of me it was written. Well, Rava amar lecha, atu hacha ki amri yadina milo mehemne. Now, Rava, the responsive that they put in the mouth of Rava is the following. The second 2 really aren't such distinctions, because those, how often is it that the woman will bring it? How often is it that the woman herself will bring her own get? Those cases are not noticeable differences because they rarely happen. But the yadina b'fanai is going to happen in every case. So he really only responds to that one. And he says the following. Atu hacha ki amre yadina milo mehemne. Well, it's true you have to say the word b'fanai nechtam, b'fanai nechtam. What if the witness came and said, I know that it was written, I know that it was signed, I know the signatures. What, we wouldn't believe him? Of course we believe him. In other words, it doesn't have to be said b'fanai. It could be said yadina. And if you say yadina, what will happen? And you accept this one witness, since you'd be believed if you said that, again, you could end up switching, right? You could end up thinking, people around could see this was done with one witness. It was done in the exact same way that you normally do kiyum shtarot. And therefore, they would come to this problem. Therefore, they said, always say ktiva and khatima, and then people know this is something different. So that's how Rava would respond to Rabba's question, as ktiva has nothing to do with it. Now, that was Sugya 2. So again, Sugya 1 was dealing with why one witness is enough. Sugya 2 is dealing with why didn't each hold like the other. Sugya 3 is going to be a question specifically on Rava. And it's going to be very similar to where we just were. Moving now to Amud Bet. We say the following. If you say the issue is lishma, then let's look at Raba. Raba says you have to say it was written lishma and it was signed lishma. But wait a minute. There's no Tana, at least as far as we can see right now, who thinks that it has to be written lishma and signed lishma. Either they think it has to be written lishma, or they think it needs to be signed lishma. But nobody thinks both, in which case the Mishnah doesn't fit according to Raba. And we're stuck with another question. Why is that? Now we're going to learn the two very central opinions that come up many, many times in this Masechet. Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Elazar. Is it Eidei Mesira that are Karte? That's Rabbi Elazar. Karte means kolate, meaning that's the thing that separates between them. That's the most important thing. The Eidim that watch the husband giving the get to the wife. Or Eidei Chatima Karte, or it's the witnesses that sign on the document that make the split. Obviously, you still have to give it to her, but the main central witnesses are the witnesses that signed the get. Okay, that's a big debate between them. We'll talk about it more as we go on. Now we're going to say, Rabbi Meir, and this all comes out of, let me give you some background. The Torah says, V'katav la sefer kritut v'natan biyada. Okay, he has to write the sefer kritut, write for her. That's where we get this halacha of lishma, which notice it's connected to the word write. Okay, we have to write to her lishma, the sefer kritut, and then give it to her. So there's a few things they learn from this. Number one, that katav has to be lishma. But there's a debate whether katav means the writing of the get or the katav means the signing of the get. So if you're Rabbi Meir and you hold Eidei Chatima is what's critical, then you read the word katav as v'chatam. We're going to see this in the Gemara later on, not in today's daf, but where he proves that writing could be signing, okay? Anyway, he reads the word katav as chatam, and therefore the chatima has to be lishma. Rabbi Elazar, who doesn't think the signing is important, reads it the simple way, which is katav. He thinks it's the edim that watch it being passed. And then you have to make a jump, which is if he thinks that it's not the signing, then when it says v'katavla, it really means katav, literally, the writing of it. And then he would say the writing has to be lishma. So we have Rabbi Elazar on one hand who holds it's the writing. We have Rabbi Meir on the other hand who holds it's the signing. But neither of them say it's both. And that's where we're stuck. So now we're going to read this inside. Rabbi Meir, Hatima by Ktiva lo by. Has to be signed, but doesn't have to be written lishma. Ditnan. That means basically that a sofer can write all sorts of practice documents, leave blank the name, and then add the name later, right? Because it's really the signing that has to be done lishma. Also, it actually means, it means even more. It means you could even take a document that someone else wrote and then sign it for the name of this person, and that would be fine too. Ditnan. Now we're going to read a different issue that would come up with the ktiva and chatima and what's important, what's not. The other thing is because it says v'chatav la sefer kritut b'natan, they learn, and we talked about this yesterday in the Rambam, that there can be no separation between ktiva and chatima, nitina, which means that from when it was written, again, written could mean signed or written, that's the whole debate here. From whatever is included in the word v'katav until v'natan, you have to be able to do it immediately after without any sort of action in between that's necessary. What does this mean? This means that if it's something attached to the ground, I was thinking of like big grape leaves in my backyard, they're very big. Theoretically, you could write a get on one of them maybe, okay? If you were to write on a grape leaf that is attached to the ground and you sign it and then you cut it and then you give it to her, that would not work because you can't have any separation between v'katav v'natan, and cutting it is already considered an action that basically wouldn't enable this to happen. So now the question is again, and this is what we're going to see, is it the writing or is it the signing that has to be done? So comes the Mishna and says, Ein kotvim b'mechubar lakarka, and this is Rabbi Meir's opinion. You can't write on something attached to the ground. Okay, you can't write on that grape leaf. But ketavo ala mechubar lakarka. But let's say you did anyway, okay? Meaning, ideally, you're not supposed to do this. But if you wrote it on that grape leaf that was attached still to the ground, to lasho, you tore it off, chatamo, you signed it, v'natnula, kashel. As long as the signing happened when it was detached, it doesn't really matter about the writing. What do you see here? The way Rabbi Meir reads this pasuk is, v'katav means v'chatam, the signature, because the signature is what has to be immediately, right? There has to be no break between the signature and the giving. Again, by the way, there could be a break. It just can't be that there's some action that is needed, like cutting it, detaching it from the ground. So therefore, it can't be Rabbi Meir because he only needs chatima lishma. Clearly, the writing of it is not important. Rabbi Elazar, ktiva bai, chatima lo bai. Okay, they don't even show you his opinion inside, but they basically say, we know that he only requires ktiva and not chatima. So that's the question. Okay, and that's because Rabbi Elazar holds edim sira karte, which means edim chatima are not important at all. We're going to see this inside in the continuation. But so far, we don't see him saying it. We just are told that this is the case. Now the Gemara suggests we're going to eventually have 4 suggestions. For today, we're going to have 2, and both are rejected. Tomorrow, we're going to have 2 suggestions that are both accepted. So right now, they want to suggest, and they're both the same style of suggestion, but one according to Rabbi Elazar, one according to Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Elazar, b'chi tema la'olam Rabbi Elazar, if you want to say, maybe it really is Rabbi Elazar. And what? But we just said he doesn't need the signature. So why would you say b'fanai nechtam? Well, b'chilo bai Rabbi Elazar chatima lishma midoraita. On a Torah level, he doesn't need it to be signed lishma. But midorabanan bai. But maybe he requires it by rabbinic law. So this is a rabbinic. When the messenger comes, the messenger has to say it was written lishma. That's the Torah law, and it was also signed lishma, which is rabbinic. But can't be that Rabbi Elazar holds this because we have an explicit Mishna where he says you don't even need signatures on a rabbinic level. There's 3 Gittin that are disqualified by rabbinic law. And in that Mishna where we have these 3 Gittin, Rabbi Elazar doesn't even require it on a rabbinic level. So we're going to see it disagrees with Tanakh here, but we're going to read it inside. Ditnan says in the Mishna much further on in the Masechet, these are 3 disqualified Gittin. But, meaning she's not divorced if she has a get like this, but if she married and had a child, the vlad is not a mamzer. The child's not a mamzer. The child would be a mamzer if she's married by Torah law. If she's only married by rabbinic law, because the get is only disqualified in a rabbinic level, then it means the child from her new marriage is not going to be a mamzer because it's only rabbinically disqualified. Okay, so this complicated language of if she's married, the vlad is okay, is really just a way of saying this is a disqualification on a rabbinic law. So what are these cases? It was written in the husband's handwriting, the get, but there's no witnesses. But the fact that he wrote in his own handwriting is pretty clear that he wrote the get. But the rabbis say on a Torah level, this would be a get, but the rabbis say since it has no signatures, it's a problem. There are witnesses, but it doesn't have a date. We'll talk about later when we get to it why you need a date in a get, but it's only rabbinic that you need a date. There's a date, but there's only one witness and not 2 witnesses. Again, that just means, it's just a review of the first line, summary sentence, these are all disqualified on a rabbinic level. Here comes Rabbi Elazar. Rabbi Elazar omer, even if there's no witnesses signed, but they gave it to her in front of witnesses, that's here we see. This is his opinion. Edim Asira, what's important. Hasher, it's good. She can collect her money. Okay, what money are we talking about? Probably the ktuba money, even though it's a little bit of a problem. Don't we collect ktuba money with a ktuba, not with a get? Some people say it's a case where she doesn't, we learned this in ktuba. She doesn't have a ktuba, but the husband has to give it anyway. On what basis can she get it? She produces her get. Let's just assume it means that. Some people have other explanations, but we'll go with that for right now. She can collect it from lien property. Okay, we'll get into all the stuff about lien property another time. Anyway, the only reason you need signatures is because of tikkun ha'olam. There's a whole Mishna on it. We're going to understand that we're going to get to in the 4th chapter, where we're going to have on a whole tangent of other things, Mishum tikkun ha'olam. It's just an institution the rabbis institute for some other reason. But really, the get is a kosher get without them. So therefore, you don't need b'fanai nechtav. So it can't be Rabbi Elazar, even on a rabbinic level, he doesn't require. Ella Rabbi Meir. So let's say it's Rabbi Meir. V'chilo bai, and we're going to do the exact same thing. Maybe he needs, right? He says you need signed lishma. Maybe though, on a rabbinic level, they require tiva also lishma. And then you'd say the Mishna's Rabbi Meir on a rabbinic level. But can't be either. Rav Nachman says, Omer haya Rabbi Meir would say, afilu mitzao ba'ashpa, even if you found it in the garbage, v'chatamo v'natzno lakashel. If you found it in the garbage and then you signed witnesses on it, that would be fine enough. That's lishma. And b'chitem, I'm just going on one more line into tomorrow's daf. B'chitem anamidoraita kamanina. If you want to say that whole line of Rabbi Nachman is the quotes Rabbi Meir is only on a Torah level. He should have said on a Torah level this would work, because if it doesn't work on a rabbinic level, why is he telling you it works? Doesn't make any sense. So you can't say he requires Ktiva Lishma on a rabbinic level because here he says you don't. So we're stuck with, it doesn't match Rabbi Elazar, it doesn't match Rabbi Meir. Each one only requires Ktiva or Chatima. They don't require the other by rabbinic law. And therefore, we don't know who the Mishna goes by according to Raba. It's really not a question on the Mishna, it's a question on Raba. If you're saying the issue is Lishma, just like we said to Rava, if you think the issue is they didn't see on the Kaima, why do you have Ktiva? Here it's really saying, if you think it's that, why does it have both Ktiva and Lishma? It doesn't seem to match anyone. Tomorrow we'll see two answers. One, you'll be a little surprised, like why didn't they start with this one? And the Gemara itself is going to ask that question. It's a very obvious answer. But you'll wait to see that tomorrow. Quick review. 3 sugyas today. 1, again, why is 1 witness enough for this? Either according to Raba and according to Rava. And why didn't Rava hold like Raba? Why didn't Rava hold like Rava? And then we ended with who is the Mishna? According to Raba, we have a question because the Mishna doesn't seem to accord with either of the 2 main opinions that we know to be about Ktiva Chatima Lishma. Wishing everybody a great Shabbat and a happy Yom Yerushalayim. Hope you're celebrating. Have a great day, everyone.